Don't forget. Right.
Okay, and thank you. And for those of you that have been hanging on, we'll get going here. I'll backtrack on what I said about 20. And as folks come in, it is what it is. But I want to thank Kennedy for setting this up or recording it. And I sent her a PowerPoint, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, whenever it was. So we're going to kind of get through this and be as interactive as possible. Um, Deep wings, I've always had an affinity for side judges and field judges and frankly back judges as well. Um, there was a time, folks, when the conventional wisdom in officiating was that there wasn't even a need for deep officials. And I remember a long time ago, specifically in 1999, being at a clinic in which a referee stood up and said, let's face it, there's really only four positions on an officiating crew: the referee, the umpire, and the H and the L. And that gentleman obviously was mistaken then, and he's even uh, grossly more mistaken today. The game has evolved so much, it's changed so much. So, Kennedy, if we can pull up, I think we're at 23 now, so we're rocking and rolling here. Welcome, everyone. And again, as you come in late here, we certainly understand it's not your fault, you're doing. But we're going to kick it off here. Our first off-season Zoom training. We got looks like about 40 plus minutes. So, Kennedy, the PowerPoint that I sent you, if you can rock and
Cool.
roll with that, okay?
Can everybody see it?
Uh,
Yep.
yes, it just came up. So, all right. So, what I did with this and kind of updated it about 2 weeks ago when I sent it to Kennedy. So, deep officials, of course, in New Jersey, S&Fs primarily. And by the way, I heard the other day South River High School, which is somewhere near Sayreville, they finally agreed to use six officials for the varsity games in 2025. If I'm not mistaken, they were the only school in the state that was not using six for varsity games. So if you are assigned to a game at South River this year, my understanding, and it comes from the horse's mouth, is that it'll be a six-person game, which is good for all involved. But at any rate, so just an overview here. It's a list of reminders, thoughts, and commandments, as I call them, which have served me well on a consistent basis. And much of this is what I've stolen from other people or through personal observation. I was very fortunate in my own career to put in 21 years as a side judge in the ACC. And I think over that period of time, trying to study the position and also as a college supervisor, mentoring folks. There's certain things that are very different about working deep. I don't know if that gives us a sense of pride or just a sense of, hey, we got to learn, we've got to always try to get better. But there's certain concepts that I feel are very important for deep officials. So if we go to the next slide, okay, go ahead, Kennedy.
Did you get it? I moved to the next slide. I see it on my screen.
I do not see it on
Don't
mine.
even.
Um,
No, not yet.
There
There
it
you
is.
go.
There
There
it
you
is.
go.
Yep. Okay. So, and now we're up to 28, by the way. So again, welcome to those folks just getting in. We certainly appreciate your time on this winter Wednesday night. So some things here, and I hate to read, but it's hard to not do it on Zoom. But please, if you're with us, please, stay with me here. The first bullet: goal line coverage with your short wing partner, and we all know that sometimes we have situations in a game where, the runner runs the ball to the 2 yard line, the 1 yard line, the three, and the deep wing and the short wing kind of look at each other and like whose spot is it, this and that. So, as a general rule of thumb, all right, the 2 yard line is kind of the line of demarcation. If the runner advances to the quote 1.5, the half-yard line, or obviously scores, that's the deep wings forward progress spot there. And that's something we don't do much as deep wings, but that's a solid mechanic to follow, a real good rule of thumb, and it's one that we should talk about in our pre games with our H and L's respectively. Whether if we're the F or the S, and let's remember too, if the ball snapped at the 7 or inside, then as a deep wing, we're off the goal line pylon, and we're now in the end zone at the 9 yard marks. So, as in any officiating endeavor, if we have an idea of where we're at any given time, and I often think of some of you might have heard of a great basketball player who actually played at Princeton University and then in the NBA, a guy named Bill Bradley, who went on to be a U.S. Senator from his native state of Missouri. He wrote a book one time called Knowing Where You're At, Knowing Where Your Feet Are At. And I think that's very applicable to officiating. Before every snap, every official, and certainly deep officials, S's and F's, we should know what yard line we're on. Okay. And I see sometimes we look at video, and you've probably, if you've been with us any amount of time, you have heard myself and others say as a deep official, you never ever want to start in between the 5 yard line and the goal line. You're either at the 5 or you're at the goal line. Never line up at the 4, the 3, the 2, or the 1 for your initial position. And that has to become a standard part of who we are as deep wing officials. You're either on the goal line or on the 5 and never in between. So again, a lot of officiating is always about reminders. And I learned a long time ago, the greatest law of learning is repetition. You do the same thing correctly over and over and over and over again, and it becomes second nature. And that also increases your confidence level a great deal. The second thing, please, as a deep wing, never leave a pregame conference, never, without at least bringing up onside kicks. And look, we've all, or probably most of us, have been around somewhat, and sometimes, the truth being told, a lot of folks, some referees, they might even read out of a book for the pregame or out of the manual. I'm not a fan of that. However, what I am absolutely advocating, we never leave a pregame without at least touching on onside kicks. Because if they happen, we all understand the game's probably on the line. And if we haven't talked about it in the pregame, it's a little too late with, a minute and 8 seconds to go and a 1 point game, whatever the scenario is. So let's make sure we absolutely always positively just bring up, even if it's again, just with the crew in general, hey, to the referee, hey, let's just spend 3 minutes talking about onside kick positioning and onside kick mechanics. And if we do that, I think we all feel a little bit more comfortable when a onside kick situation presents itself. And I don't know if we took a poll tonight, there's 32 folks on here right now. If we took a poll of the 32 deep officials here, I've always felt that onside kicks are the single most difficult play for deep wings to cover. If you're the referee, you're way back still, and with the deep receiver, maybe around the 10 yard line or something. But as a deep wing, you've got, did the ball go 10 yards? Did the kicking team block before they're eligible to touch the ball? Were there any low blocks, etc.? Did the ball get kicked out of bounds? I need a flag. I mean, you got a million things potentially going on. And once again, the game is on the line. So we've got to be at our absolute best on onside kicks. And I used to joke all the time. I used to tell officials when we know there's an onside kick coming based on the time and score of the game, I used to say to myself and to other guys, I'd get on the O2Os and I would say, let's begin to pray. Onside kicks mean begin to pray. You're hoping for a clean recovery. You're hoping for an obvious first touching or a kickoff out of bounds or something like that. It's again, in my view, it's the hardest play to officiate for a myriad of reasons. All right, the third bullet there, end line coverage with your deep wing partner when you're both positioned on the end line. Just a reminder here, okay, we want to be at the numbers on the end line. I see a question here, Kenny. Did you get that or a chat? Yeah, right. When the ball, as I said, when the ball's touching the 7, the S and F go behind, and now we're in the end zone on the end line, and we're at the numbers in. If the ball's at the 8, 9, 10, 12, 21, we're on the goal line. Okay, so Jim, that is correct. Okay, now where does the short wing go? I'm not quite sure. Jim, can you elaborate on that chat question? I'm not quite sure what you're asking there. Where does the short wing go? I'm not sure what that means.
Unless he's asking about it, where on the onside kick.
Jim,
Oh, okay, that could be. So, yeah, I mean, I'd have to check the manual, but I think we have the short wings up at the 50 and both deep wings at the 40, I think. But don't quote me on that. But that's in your manual. And Jim, if that's your question, that's certainly a legit question. And okay, maybe it was obvious what you're asking relative to
No,
the kit.
no, we're down by we're on the 8 yard line, and we have the goal line. So now
Right.
the short wing, they're following the play. So
Yep.
where do they go? Do they go behind us? Because we're off.
No.
I mean,
Okay,
we're
I
off.
got you. So
So
no, they only go behind us if the runner scores standing up. So if the runner gets tackled at the 2, the 3, the 4, whatever, the short wing's going to have forward progress. If the kid gets tackled at say the 1 yard line, the short wing and if you're on the goal line, all deep wings when we start at the goal line, you should verbally say to the short wing, slow down. Take your time. Don't compress us, meaning don't come at us like a bat out of hell. Just take your time. If the kid gets tackled at the 3, the guy gets a forward progress spot. Gets tackled at the 1, we get it. Okay. But the 2 yard line, again, is kind of a line of demarcation. But we don't want a short wing pushing so hard that our peripheral is affected. And to your point, Jim, we are absolutely well off the pylon, goal line extended far more than a short wing would be.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we're back probably 5, maybe 10 yards.
Well, I don't know about 10, but
That's
ideally we
too
want to
far.
be.
That's too
Yeah.
far.
Yeah,
We're back.
that's all right, folks. Let's not get into questions are good, but let's not. Is it 5 yards? Is it 10? Yeah, 10 is too much. So is 5. A good rule of thumb is to how far back we are. Look at the apron that goes around the field, the white that stops at the 25-yard line, and just imagine that line. Or some fields have a dotted line. That's a pretty good spot. That's at least 3 yards off the sideline, and obviously that's going to be far back, more back than a short wing who's literally his toes are still on the sideline at the snap. The ball's snapped at the 8, 9, 10, whatever. Okay. Field goals, PATs, deep wings. It seems simple. It seems very, well, every time. I told this story. I don't remember if it was at Sayreville Clinic or one of our Central Jersey meetings. I don't remember, but back in the 90s, and the timing doesn't matter, but what happened certainly does. We get a potential game-ending field goal with a 6-man crew, 6-person crew, and the kid kicks the ball, and it's very crowded, a very high-level game, high-energy game, a great deal of noise, and as the ball goes near the goalpost, the field goal, one official yells "good," and he doesn't hear the other guy yell "no good." So we literally, on a potential game-winning field goal, we have one official signaling good and one official signaling no good. And that play is still talked about. This happened at a school called Easton High School in Pennsylvania against a school called Liberty High School from Bethlehem. Again, the teams are irrelevant. The dates of the games are, but if we don't use proper verbiage, okay, and I have it there, yes, yes, or no, no, because that way there can be no misunderstanding, okay, what each person is saying. Whereas good or no good, I might not hear the no, and I'm thinking the guy said good, so I go up and he's signaling no good. And there's absolutely no excuse for that. And those guys, even a long time ago, were held accountable and they were suspended for 2 games. And that's just the way it is. You can't have, there's an old saying in officiating, eliminate avoidable mistakes, and not using good verbiage, not using good language. I learned a long time ago, a guy said to me, and he taught me this, he said, sloppy language equals sloppy performance. And I've stolen that, like I've stolen a lot of things in officiating. That's very true. And being under the goalpost on a field goal or a point after touchdown kick, do it every time. Yes, yes, no, no, come out together, obviously, with the same signal. Okay. We talked a little bit about when you're on the pylon, be wide, slow down, take your time. One of the things that officials can never be told enough is to slow down. And every one of us has been told at some point in our career, we're going too fast. We're going too fast. Take your time, slow down. But until we see ourselves on tape, or until someone who is knowledgeable comes and looks at us and says, you just need to slow down, I don't think it ever really hits home. So please make it a habit, put it into your repertoire. Each of you, just teach yourself to slow down. The slower we go, the more accurate and better we are. The slower we go, it gives your brain time to process and to make a signal. How many times have we seen an official give a signal too quick, whether it's a catch or maybe the runner being down and all of a sudden the ball's out and the guy wasn't down, whatever the specific scenario can be. Slowing down is a good thing. Again, what I've learned, folks, is saying it is one thing. Having an official literally slow him or herself down is quite another. And let's face it, we can talk about this on a Wednesday night in February. You get out there on August Friday night or September, October, November Friday, the band's playing, the lights are on, the crowd's into the game, and it's a tight game, whatever. It really takes a lot of concentration. But I can assure you, if you slow down, you become absolutely guaranteed a better official, a better official. So try to always think about that. Self-talk yourself. All right, slow down. You got a catch in the end zone for a touchdown. There's no need to go right up. Take a second, process it. Kid still has it. Maybe he fell to the ground. Maybe he just caught it standing up. It doesn't matter. Just take your time and then give a nice touchdown signal. And you'll be amazed how much more comfortable you feel when you slow down. And it prevents a lot of potential officiating mistakes. So the NFL used to use a phrase, they used to say, we want officials officiating in cruise control. And that's a good, you can't be in cruise control if you don't slow down. So, okay. Distance is your friend as a deep official. That includes keeping a cushion from the snap on. That includes being wide at the goal line, as Jim's earlier chat box and discussion alluded to. That includes not getting too close at the end of a play. All right, let the play end. I heard a guy say one time, and it's another thing I've stolen. The question is, when does the play end? Well, the greatest definition I've ever heard of that is this: a play ends, quote, when all the players stop moving, unquote. I'll repeat that. A play ends when all the players stop moving. And when all the players stop moving is when, okay, there's not going to be any dead ball foul or anything like that. And sometimes, we all been there, we miss a dead ball foul because we have not processed that that play is over and we react too quickly. And sometimes we miss something because we're too close to the action. It's the old thing, can you see all the forest and the trees if you're next to the all the trees? And sometimes it's better to be, removed distance-wise from that. Okay. A couple other remembers. Don't give up good position at the goal line, at the pilot. I can show numerous video plays to folks, and we'll do this later on one night, where a guy starts at the goal line as I think it's a field judge. He correctly starts at the goal line. He's nice and wide. And as the play develops, he moves off the goal line towards about the 2 or 3 yard line. And sure enough, now the quarterback who was scrambling outside throws a pass, and it's literally right at the pylon, and the guy's caught around the 3 yard line. Okay, so when we say don't give up good position, that is a precise example. Don't give up good position. Sometimes you're just going to stay still and put your head on a swivel. And one of the things that years ago I began to notice and tried to teach a lot of people, sometimes the hardest thing to do as an official on a given play is to be still. We all have a tendency to but time and time and time again, people that study this are convinced that if you are still, you see things better and your judgment is much more accurate. So if you have a good position, don't give it up, especially at the pylon. As a deep official, it's critical that we pay attention to the game clocks. They're always part of the game, whether it's the game clock or the play clock. And we know that very few schools in New Jersey have a visible play clock. And obviously, if you're a field judge, you're expected to keep it on your watch. And in this day and age, And I'm sure we have some field judges on here that have experienced this, where you get a coach on the sideline, especially late in the game or late in the half. They are literally timing the play clock, and they're going to yell, "Hey, hey, let's go, delay a game," whatever the scenario would be. And it's the rule is the rule. I think back in 2019, the Federation went to the automatic play clock after a play. Colleges went to that in 2009. The NFL did it. I don't know when, but it was certainly before that. And high schools did it. I'm pretty sure it was 2019, and it's become part and parcel to the game. And how many of you ever, again, there's no way to have you answer me, but how many of you ever had a game where there was a visible play clock and you think, this team's going to have 3 or 4 delay games because they're not used to it. They're not used to it. And last year, late in the season, I went to a game, and it was a school that never used a play clock on their home games, and they're playing a playoff game in New Jersey at a school that has a visible play clock. And in the first quarter, they had 2 delay games alone. And there's no question it's because they're not visible on their home field. And then they get in a situation where that guy gets tackled, and it's going to be, count a second, count then 40, 39, 30, and it happens. But as deep officials, we've got to pay attention to both game and play clocks because they exist on every single play. Every single play. Okay. Does anybody have a chat thing here? No. Okay. All right. Stick to the basics, as in anything in officiating. If we do the basic things well, things go well. If we get outside of our own comfort zone or whatever, that's when things might tend to go south. And one of the things that we'll get through this later. Kenny, you can go to the next slide. But one of the things, folks, I'm absolutely convinced of
Give me one
that
second.
really separates officials. I'm certain of this, as today is Wednesday, February 19th, it is very, very critical for every official. You've got to teach yourself when one play is over, that play is over forever, and you got to move on to the next play. And that's a mindset, especially so if there was a close play or maybe a catch near a sideline or potential DPI, whatever. You got to get that immediately out of your head and officiate the next play. And that technique, truly one play at a time, that is extremely difficult to master in the officiating life. It's very difficult. I know I struggled with it for a long time, and it took me forever till I got to where I'm going to just go ref the next play. And when that play's over, I'm going to ref the next play. And when that play's over, I'm going to officiate the next play. And I literally, for a long time, said that to myself until it became truly second nature. So, okay, Kennedy, next
Jim,
slide.
is it on your screen? It's on mine. Are you guys not getting it?
It seems like it's late. I mean, the one that now still says deep officials reminders to keep. Okay, there you go.
Just change Kennedy.
There you go.
All right, we're good. All right. I don't know why it's doing that. Sorry, guys.
Kennedy, is that like a delayed reaction in Sayreville, New Jersey?
It might be, and I always tell Steve, I'm like kind of not the most technologically inclined all the time. But
you're
I
doing
got it for
fine.
it.
And Jim Simmons has another very good chat box statement. The question is, on a deep pass, why can't the deep wing spot the end of the play? And first of all, Jim, he or she can. The question is, we can debate what's a deep pass. I will say this. If as a deep wing, let's say a kid catches a 40-yard pass and he gets tackled near the sideline, there's absolutely no reason for the deep wing not to get the spot on that play. Instead of having a short wing run maybe 30 yards, 25 yards, he has no idea of an accurate forward progress spot. If you got it, stop the clock, assuming the guy got tackled in bounds, going to be a first down, and get the forward progress spot. So by all means, Jim, that's something I think we just need to do better on. So your point is very legit. Don't run away from it if you're right there. And not Jim, I'm just saying generally speaking. Don't run away from a play if you're right there.
And that's
Step in, stop the
probably,
clock, get the
Hey,
ball,
somebody need to
down,
mute
get it into the
himself.
hash, and get ready for the next play.
right. That's, I think,
Good question, good
what's in
point.
our mind is to, get on the radio and say, okay, the pass is.
I'm not sure if that's this group or some other group, but
Hey,
please have
Jim,
to mute
excuse
yourself
me.
unless you're.
Jim, somebody needs to mute themselves. There's a lot of interference coming over.
Yeah, I can hear it. Okay. All right. So the next slide, thoughts for deep officials. Okay. And again, take a minute if you would. Okay. If you were at a game up in the press box, and trust me when I tell you this, as a college supervisor, I go to a game every week and I sit up in the press box, and you can just the way people position themselves, the way they move, their signals, you really pick up on officials who, quote, know what they're doing and those who might, still have a ways to go. But one thing, if you're the be aligned across from each other. Uh, you and I have probably gone to games where one deep guy is 20 yards, the other guy's 27 yards, and it's like, what are they doing? What's going on here? Pay attention to one another. Obviously, the H and the L are always lined up together because they're on the line of scrimmage. We should be the same thing, whether it's 22 yards, 25 yards, 27. We should be aligned across from each other on the same yard line, regardless of, again, whether it's 22 yards downfield at the snap, 25, whatever the scenario is. We should be aligned across. It's a great look from up top. It's a much better optic than if one guy is 7, 8, 10 yards deeper or shorter than the other deep wing. So a little thing like that makes a big difference. Okay. My personal preference working deep was to be at least 1 foot in the white with both of my feet. Uh, don't be on the sideline. Be a little bit off the sideline because many times as a deep official, you've got to kind of bail even farther out, depending on the type of play. And if you add that head start, it makes it a little bit better for you. Try not to start with your feet right on the sideline. Is the point we're trying to make? Okay. Like we said a little bit earlier, try to maintain your cushion. Look, we're all going to get beat at some point. I guarantee it. I don't care how fast you are. These players are, 16, 17, 18-year-old kids, and usually in pretty good condition. And we're going to get caught flat-footed or somebody breaks away. And, we're coming up instead of holding our ground, holding our order, and now the kid passes. It's going to happen. If it happens, do your best, just hustle, but keep officiating. Don't just run straight ahead like you're running a track meet and you don't realize anybody's to your left or your right. Do your best to try to catch up, but don't sacrifice that for vision. You still have to observe human beings as the play develops. Um, I think in Sayreville last year, in one of the sessions, we had a guy named Jerry Walters there from the ACC, and he talked about backpedaling and then turning your hips and running. And sometimes you got to do that, and that's okay. And I understand. Believe me, I get the fact that we have people in here who probably their age range might be 20, 30, 40 years different from somebody else. That's okay. And we have people in here, not everybody runs as fast or as smoothly as somebody else. That's okay too. The idea, however, is to be fundamentally sound with your footwork. So whether you're 75 years old or 25 years old, there's certain things you should do that put you in the best possible position. Okay. Obviously, when I was in my 20s and 30s, I could run a whole lot faster than I can now. That's okay. If you know what you're doing, you kind of make up for that a little bit. I think experience goes a long way if you've been taught correctly and if you've worked at your craft. So uh, don't worry about it if you're not as fast as you once were. That's okay. But at the same time, read the play. And if you have to, get out of your back pedal because we obviously run faster when we turn and run than if we back pedal. And sometimes deep officials tend to back pedal too long. And then when you do turn and run, it's a little bit too late. And that's just kind of a feel. And that's kind of repetitions over and over and over again. Okay. When the pass is thrown, try to square up to see the sideline and get still. A lot of times, a kid is running from the inside out and trying to catch a ball near the sideline. If we're squared up and still, we got a great opportunity, a great chance to get that. Is the in or out of bounds call correct? Did his foot come down on the line, or is it inbounds, or whatever the scenario would be? And we all understand that some plays are real tight. That's what you signed up for. That's what you signed up for. Okay. If you're at the goal line and a runner scores standing up, don't follow him past the goal line. Just stay there, turn your eyes, turn your belt buckle to him and your eyes to him. That way, if he spikes the ball or it gets hit late or whatever potential dead ball, we got a lot better chance getting it if we simply hold our ground and then kind of pivot our body, but primarily our belt buckle, okay, towards the scoring player. And we've all been there where a kid gets blown up after he scores and we miss it, or a kid scores and he literally spikes the ball and we don't call it unsportsmanlike. And I know, so, well, we don't want to, he's just a kid. No, no, no. These are unsportsmanlike acts specifically prohibited by rule. Um, but that's kind of a different scenario. We said earlier, never start between the 5 yard line and the goal line. Start either on the goal line or on the 5 yard line. This is an easy fix. Just know where you're at. Again, Bill Bradley, have a sense of where you are. Okay? Be prepared to assist the H&L. If kid runs out of bounds for a 2 yard gain and he goes in, say a player with a blue shirt goes into the defense sideline with all the white players, white shirted players, hustle up there, clean up, mop up, keep your head up, don't look down, keep your head up. And a good technique to use is to literally take a step onto the field and then come up the sideline. That way you're not going to be involved with players on that sideline or substitutes. There's a long time ago, the NFL had a supervisor named Jerry Seaman. Sadly, he's deceased at this point, but he taught that technique to NFL guys. You step onto the field and then come up the sideline. It's much cleaner that way if you're closing down a play. It gives you a great look from the inside out. Okay. Again, in our manual that we alluded to a little bit previously, when a team is punting from the defensive team's 45-yard line or closer, the F and S should be lined up on the goal line. And again, be wide at the pylon. I'll repeat, distance is your friend as a deep official, probably more than any other officials on the field. Distance is your friend. Okay, Kennedy?
All right, let's see. Hopefully it changes this time.
You did it, Kennedy. Great.
All right, good.
All
Yay.
right. So these are what I put a little thing together here called the 10 Commandments. Okay, and for deep officials, and these are probably, again, a deep official, don't be afraid to get involved with a coach. And I don't mean confrontationally. I just mean communicate to the guy. I'll tell you one thing you can learn here tonight. If you put this in your repertoire, coaches will respect you. For example, what I'm talking about is this. Say it's a fourth quarter, team on offense is winning the game, and they run a play, and the defensive player gets hurt. We know by rule now we're going to have a 40-second play clock, right? Because of the defensive injury. Coaches don't know that. So say, hey, coach, just so you know, you'll have 40 seconds on the play clock for the next play. You'd be amazed how thankful they are. If you just tell them anything like that. Or another good example, years ago, I was in a game where late in the game, very close game, very tight game, the quarterback went back to pass and he scrambled all over the field and eventually throws a pass which is incomplete. And there was a flag upfield. And I thought to myself, I'm downfield, but I thought to myself, it's got to be offensive holding or possibly ineligible downfield player because the quarterback had taken a lot of time scrambling all over the field before he threw the ball. And sure enough, I see the referee give the one hand on his head for ineligible downfield player signal. I went right to the coach who was on my sideline, who was a defensive team coach, and I said, Coach, just so you know, that is not a loss of down. That's all I said to him. Coach, just so you know, that's not a loss of down because now he's got to decide, does he want like a 2nd and 10 or 1st and 15, whatever I don't remember that specifically. However, I'm telling you, folks, this guy thought, that is fantastic communication. Oh, that's great efficient. And I didn't think anything of it. But I said that to him, Coach, just so you know, that's not a loss of down. I think any one of us could do that if we know the rule, number one. And number two, if we're in the game and understand how important communication is. And I said that, and truth be told, I still remember this was a game between Duke University and the University of Virginia. And the reason the coach of Virginia at the time was a guy named Al Groh, who used to coach the Jets and the Giants with Bill Parcells and Bill Belichick. And, hey, Coach Groh, just so you know, it's not a loss of down. I found out the Monday after the game, he called our supervisor and he said, I love how that official communicated with me. And I didn't even think anything of it. A little thing like that can go a really long way. And coaches like that. They really like that. And most of the time, people don't even realize how they can assist a coach there with just a little bit of communication. And conversely, if it was an offensive coach, if I was on their sideline, I say, Coach, it's not a loss of down. I would have done the same thing. I would have done the same exact thing. So little things like that, folks, believe me, they go a long way in really increasing your game as, in this case, a deep official. Okay, make your presence felt. You got two kids jawing at each other after a play. They're kind of wrestling with each other and hand fighting. Just go in, pop your whistle, beep, 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 like that gets people's attention. Beep, beep, it gets people's attention. Hey, 10, hey, 15, knock it off. My eyes are on you guys. Hey, don't lecture them. Don't stand there and scream. Say, hey, knock it off. I'm watching both of you. And you'd be amazed what a difference that makes. And I've always believed in using the player's number to communicate with them. I never, ever would call the player's son unless he's my son. And if he is, I don't know about it. So that wouldn't be good. Okay. But I always say the player's number. Hey, 10, hey, 15, whatever the scenario is. That's how you communicate. Okay. Stay alert every play. Please don't fall asleep. All right. If the team's a running play or a running team primarily, maybe a triple option team, they're not going to throw much. Don't fall asleep because sooner or later there's going to be a fake and a throw deep or a reverse or who knows what, and a kid busts through. Stay in the game mentally every single play. Really good officials do that. Really good officials stay in the game every play mentally. Okay. Count Team B every play. Those of you who are going to work in 2025, go to a game sometime that you're not working and watch the deep officials. And sometimes they'll give I got 11 without even counting. They'll just do it without even counting. Count every play. There's different theories on how to count. Some people say start on the defensive sideline and count like towards the others. Like if Team B is on, say, the right of this screen here, okay, that Kennedy has pulled up, and I'm on the other sideline. I'm over where all the bullet points are. In Team B, some guys in on defense. I'm going to start away at their sideline and count towards myself. That's just me. I knew a guy that used to count legs. I kid you not. He would count legs. He said, I can count legs. I better get to 22. If we got 24, we have a problem, whatever. I've never done that, but please count human beings every play. Don't assume that, well, they always have 11 because there's going to be a play at some point in your career where the defense has 12. Maybe it's on a punt. Maybe a kid that was supposed to leave. He's not on punt return, but he stayed in or whatever. Please count players every play. It's crucial. And again, it also keeps you in the game every play. Good adage is always hustle, but don't hurry. I think that is true of every officiating endeavor. Hustle, but don't hurry. Don't get concerned about balls. We got guys that worry way too much about that. Got to get a new ball. No, you don't. Don't concern yourself with new balls. More times than not, the balls will take care of themselves. And if your ball boy isn't real good, and you got to go from the other sideline. Trust me, folks. Don't concern yourself with game balls.
Mute yourself.
They'll take care of themselves. If you're in a game and you know a rule has been misapplied, I'm not talking about judgment, but for example, suppose there's pass interference, defensive pass interference that someone else has called.
All right, I'll do it right now.
You gotta mute yourself.
So you got pass interference, and for whatever reason, the referee announces it or he signals automatic first down. Let's say it was second down and 22, and you got pass interference. We know in high school it's not automatic first down. If you know it's wrong, if you know the application of the rules is wrong, I advocate strongly. You got to step up. You got to step off the ledge. You got to go in. You got to grow a set of you know what. You got to say, hey, let's think about this. Let's talk about this here. That's not an automatic first down. People might not appreciate it. And I was once told, well, high school guys won't do that. Well, I don't know that. I do know this. If you're going to be fair to the game and respect the game and be a keeper of the game, you have to do what's right. Okay. Russell Gartz just the chat box. He had 3 situations last year where Team B had 12 men on the field. Point made. Thank you, Russell, for pointing that out to the folks on here. So, yeah. But if you know a rule is wrong, I believe you have an obligation to the game to step up and say, "Hey, it's wrong." Okay, or let's at least think about it. Okay, don't run away from trouble. You got 2 guys at the end of a play away from the play, and they're hand fighting, chicken fighting. They're on the ground. Don't run away from it. Come up, address it, like I said earlier, and then go back. But don't run away from it. Okay, don't ignore clocks, and don't let a colleague make a mistake with a rule. Again, it might not go over well at the time, but at the end of the day, you'll have done the right thing, and you will find you are much more respected than if you just screw it. It's only high school. And frankly, I this is just me speaking. I I just loathe that mentality. Well, it's only high school. I can't stand when I hear people say that. Again, that might just be me. I'm not shying away or ashamed to say that I think the best officials are those that have high standards and want to reach and live up to and respect the game of football. It's okay to have a high standard. It's okay to push yourself. Somebody has a chat box, Bob Con. What are your thoughts on offsetting pass interference calls? Bob, really good question. It's rare, but I've seen it called. And I've also heard college supervisors support it. I don't know if that answers your question, Bob.
I
It's
actually had one this past season, Jim. I called DPI and my line judge called OPI.
okay. That can happen. It's all right.
And we just
So you
called it off
offset
when we
them?
did the down.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Yep. It's rare, but that's okay. That's okay. All right. And another question here from Austin Berninger. If I think, when is there first down and the umpire spotted the ball, but it's still not in position, when do you really want to start the play clock? Well, the rule tells us when the ball is dead, we count 1,001 and 1,002 at the most and start the play clock. So it doesn't really have to do with when the umpire has the ball on the ground. If the federation rule is just like the college and NFL rule, okay, now are you going to give them a few seconds? Maybe, but again, if that team later on is playing at a field with a visible play clock, they're probably going to get a delay or two because of that. So I would say, Austin, use your judgment, be judicious, but don't let it slide too much because at some point it's going to come back to haunt them. Or late in the game, if they're ahead and trying to use the clock as their ally, now the other team's coach or an assistant is literally timing. Hey, that should be a delay. You gave him 44 seconds. You gave him 46 seconds, and that's hard to quarrel with at that point. So, again, I would just get into the habit. The guy gets tackled 1,001, 1,002, and the play clock starts by rule. And if the umpire doesn't have the ball down, then, well, so be it. But okay, I think we're down to 1 minute left here, folks. And um, it seems to me as though the 46 folks that are there, the time flew. I can't believe it's 8:24. But so I guess we're going to reconvene. And I also want to, again, Kennedy, thanks for your assistance tonight. And the 46 of you, thank you for coming on. Thanks for giving up 60 minutes on a Wednesday night in the winter due to your commitment and dedication to football officiating. I always say this. I'm getting to know more and more folks in New Jersey, but when we get to Sayreville in August, please, by all means, come say hello to me, shake my hand. I would appreciate that very much. So, okay, I think we're, yep, leave breakout room. Okay. Thank you, folks.
All right, Jim.